Surprisingly, hiddenness does seem to promote relationship with God in the long run. Mystics often report a dark night of the soul, in which God's presence is withdrawn from them. But they also report that the dark night eventually ends, and that the relationship with God is made all the stronger for it.
And I mean, I guess I really don't understand that. I get that people go through these times where they're doubting their faith or whatnot, and they come out on the other end stronger for it. The way that Cameron portrays it here is that they have this spiritual dryness, or this like they feel separated from God or whatever. People who are doubting their faith and then recommit even harder are generally trying to figure it out. And so they try to rationalize it, and they come away with a new understanding that causes them to be all gung-ho for Jesus, or they make a decision to be all gung-ho for Jesus. It's not about God presenting himself to the person or revealing himself to the person in any kind of discernible way. It's all this personal experience thing, like, oh, well, they had a personal experience that convinced them. Okay, so emotional. You're saying that emotional reasons are the reasons why you've recommitted even harder. And that kind of seems to be what most of the time it is. Like, you have some kind of emotional reaction to it, or you have some kind of emotional reason in order to recommit yourself to this religion, and to believe in it even harder. And I find emotional reasoning like that to just be totally unpersuasive. It can cause you to make, bad decisions. How funny would it be for Cameron to be like, some mystics say that they're as dry as Ben Shapiro's wife when it comes to the spirit.
They say it causes them to better appreciate their relationship with God, better understand their dependence on God, and it even aids in purifying themselves for deeper union with God.
So they come away with a deeper appreciation for God. That's kind of interesting, because I kind of feel like if God is so hidden in my life that I'm sitting there questioning whether or not he exists, I don't understand what would cause somebody to then like come away with a deeper appreciation for God, especially if you start looking into like everything that the Bible claims and how that's wrong. I totally accept that this is just my own bias. I personally don't understand this point, and I'll never be able to understand this point. I'll never be able to understand how you can come away doubting your faith and being even more coupled with your faith, because it doesn't make sense to me in the first place to believe in those things. So I totally get that it's something that I just will never be able to understand. I know that some people are convinced by questioning their religion and then coming away and being even more religious. I get that people do that. I just don't understand.
On the other hand, some non-believers openly claim that if God exists, they wouldn't want a relationship at all, but would instead rebel. It makes sense to think that God might want to remain hidden. And if you want to form a healthy relationship with somebody, doing something that causes them to resent and fight you would be counterproductive. For as long as someone has this disposition, God's purposes might be better served if he remains distant.
Now, I feel like this doesn't exactly work in practice. So in his whole parent-child analogy there, well, it's kind of weird because it's thought of as like, we're the children of God, we're the child of God or whatever. And of course, Jesus is his son. But also in the Bible, it talks about how we're supposed to marry God. So it's kind of like a weird, like hillbilly Alabama type of family dynamic, I guess. There are plenty of reasons why you would want to do something for somebody that they are going to resent, that they are going to hate, and that they will probably resent you, but you know that it needs to be done for them. Sending somebody to rehab, or having an intervention or something like that. Forcing somebody or telling somebody something they need to hear or something that they need to do, even though it's going to make them resent you, is I would think be part of what it means to be a parent, like to be a good parent. Here's an example. My son doesn't want to eat any kind of green food unless he chooses to eat it. And so we have a rule here at our house that he has to eat at least, one green thing for one of his meals. And so he never likes that, but he's accepted it. At first, he really fought us on it, but this is we feel like this is a good compromise, between his mother's house and our house. He doesn't like it, and he kind of resents us for it, but it's still a good thing for him. And so if we try to apply this to the the divine hiddenness thing. Cameron is saying, well, it might be a good thing not to do, say, or tell a person this thing that they don't want to hear. It might be a good thing for you to just pull back and just let them do what in the fuck ever. Here's the thing about God, though. If God does exist, he would know exactly what kind of evidence would persuade any one person on earth to believe in him. God knows what it would take to convince like me that he exists. And if God does believe in free will, then by God not presenting himself to us or not showing us that he exists in some kind of way, he's removing that ability to use our free will to, worship him. Because while we say, oh, I wouldn't worship that fuck, I mean, we need to be presented with the option first that, oh, this God is definitely the God. Everything in the Bible is true. And then we can make that decision, like saying, oh, well, he said he won't believe in me anyways. Like he won't worship me and suck my dick. So I might as well just stay hidden. I would think that you would need to present like the option to people in order for them to refuse to worship. Now, that being said, I definitely would fall in the camp of somebody that would not worship God, even if he did exist, like the biblical God. I wouldn't worship that fuck. I've read his book. If his book is any kind of indication as to the kind of shithead that he is, no, I'm not going to worship him. But that doesn't mean that I don't want to know that he exists. Why is it that God only wants to present himself to people that are willing to worship him? It comes off actually as saying, oh, well, first you have to believe in him and worship him in order for him to reveal himself to you. Like, you mean I've got to buy all of this shit and worship God in order for God to talk to me? Like, that's some bullshit.